And as you were saying earlier, the heart of this conversation isn't about gender at all. It's about security. It's about the security that you feel in the relationship that you share. And if you don't feel secure in that relationship, that's when all of these other things creep in, right? The insecurities that you have, the insecurity that you feel in your relationship. And then you feel like you need to direct it to where and control it, which again goes back to it's an illusion. And it's not that they won't pop up, because those insecurities are going to pop up for everyone. It's what do you choose to do with it when those insecurities pop up? Do you use it to control your partner? Do you use it to direct their behavior? Or do you turn it inward and use it to direct your response?
It's great.
Right?
I think that's a beautiful, it's great in theory, and I think that makes a ton of sense. So the question is, how do I actually implement that, right? What can I do to help me move from reacting from fear and insecurity instead of responding from trust, abundance, and love? And we have a practice for that.
We do. We do. And it always comes back to communication, right? And how you're able to communicate effectively with your partner and stay in communication. Like even before this podcast, you and I had a breakdown in communication.
We did.
Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth kind of moment, right? And it is so easy to just let communication fall to the wayside. If you do that when it comes to friendships that make your relationship feel like jealousy may arise or trigger insecurities, as though there is emotional cheating going on, or it could trigger any number of insecurities in a relationship, then it will be the very thing that begins to erode the relationship. And that to me is what goes straight to the heart of this discussion. Because it doesn't matter who your friends are. It could be same-sex friends. They eat away at the heart of your relationship. We can make this about gender all day long, but it's not about gender. It is about the communication that you have in your relationship, the transparency, and the true safety and connection that you feel. And we're using opposite sex friends as the scapegoat for all of those things.
Yeah, like even in Ted Lasso, Beard's girlfriend was jealous of Ted Lasso and Beard's relationship, right? Thinking that they were in love. It's like, so it isn't one-sided. I think that's really important to understand that. And that's why you're right. Communication, understanding, transparency, and recognizing that just because someone else is able to help support your partner in a way that in that moment you might not be able to, that does not make you less of a person. That does not make you less of a partner. That does not make you stupid or unevolved, or any of the inner critic words that come forward to make us feel less than. And it definitely doesn't have to mean that there is a disconnect in the relationship. They're not mutually exclusive. Your partner can have amazing friends that support them and grow, and you can have a really strong relationship. And I know that because that's what we have.
And as you said in the beginning, we both have friends of the opposite sex. And my male friends. I know your female friends. we are friends with each other's opposite sex friends, but I don't have to be there every time you get together with your female friends. And I have no problem with that. You don't have to be there every time I get together or talk to my male friends. And I've learned so much about you through my male friends and been able to see so many more epic and amazing things about you because they see you in a way that I didn't see you. Not because I didn't desire to see you in that way, but they see you through a lens that I didn't see you through. And then they'll say something to me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, yes, now I see that too. So there's such a gift that comes through that lens. But if there is ever a time where you would have said, hey, I don't know, I don't know that I feel really comfortable with that because I feel like maybe this friend is kind of towing a line toward having different feelings for you than you might be recognizing. Then that's where this transparency triangle tool that you were talking about comes into play.
And this is important. There's 3 steps to this, and it's each one is just as important as the other. And we'll kind of, once we kind of go through it, it'll sound really simple because the reality is that it is simple. It's human nature to overcomplicate things. But once you put it into practice, it does feel simple and it does feel smooth and it does get you out of this, why are should relationships be this hard? That's a question. We hear it all the time in movies and TV shows and friends and family and all that. And I can tell you right now, Amber and I are 11 years into our honeymoon phase, and we can tell you, no, it doesn't have to be that hard. And this is one of those tools to get you there.
Well, if it's hard, then you don't do it. You don't use the tool. It's too complicated to integrate into your daily life. Who wants to do all of that, right? Yeah. You can't even remember because it's too many steps. So this is 3 steps, with the first one being share your intention, right? Why is this friendship important to you? Like for me, why is the friendship important to me? What am I receiving from it that makes it important in my life? And through that, I'm able to let you into the insight so that there's value being added. And maybe not just to me, but to us. So that, and I'll use a friendship, right, where I met this person, my friend, Corey. I met him through my degree process for my master's degree. He helped me navigate some really deep spiritual insights. Get so much of that from you. But because we were in the same coursework, he had an awareness through the coursework that you weren't in his classes with me. So you didn't understand. Now, you never questioned Corey in any way at all.
He's a wonderful human being, but yeah, I didn't understand. I wasn't diving into the course and taking it. So I couldn't experience or share to the same depth of the experience that Corey could. And that doesn't make me stupid or less than or anything like that.
In any moment where you may have been feeling a little insecure because Corey and I had a different language, you never let that be a reason that you pulled me away from talking with Corey. And you never made that my problem. But we would have a talk about, okay, here's why this friendship is important to me. And you immediately were like, yeah, I totally get that. No questions about that. So yeah, go have a chat with Corey, talk through what you need to talk through. And I would love to hear about it when you're done. And that's how it went.
Right. And that leads to step 2, which is create inclusion. Right. I never felt outside of it. I never felt like this is, again, back into fear or possession. Like it's like if you needed to have it closed off and separate from our relationship in some way, like in just even terms in the communication of it, then that might throw some red flags up. But because you were very open and either you always gave me the option, either invited me into the conversation or you said, hey, like, I'd love for you to be in this, but at this time I need to talk with Corey because it's specifically about things in our class. And you might be a little, you weren't in the class. So I could totally understand why, and for me, it was like, I wasn't in the class. So I'm not going to know what's going on. It's kind of like when people are friends and growing up and they talk about all their memories from growing up and you weren't a part of it. And you're like, I don't know how to enter this conversation because I wasn't there and I have no context and no experience, the same kind of thing. And so it's like, yeah, like but you took the time to make sure I was always included and that you would always share and you'd let Corey know, hey, I'm open book. I'm going to tell Austin everything that we talk about. That's important. And so if there isn't something you don't want Austin to know, don't talk to me about it. It's like it's kind of that simple. And it's like if there is something like or it's like, hey, would you want Austin's thoughts too in this? And then so you and Corey might have a chat, and then you might bring it up to me, and then we might actually both end up talking with Corey. And after I've had time to kind of think it through, and then we all grow together through that process. So it was like that was the creating of inclusion that was so important in that friendship that it didn't feel siloed, but it felt there was respect to where you can have the relationship with Corey, for example, and that doesn't interfere in your and I relationship or anything. It's like, and then from that, I actually gained a friend. Like, I mean, you and Corey talk a lot more than I do, but I love Corey. Like he and I have had some amazing conversations. And so it's again, back to abundance versus fear.
Should there ever be something that was really deeply personal that was going on in Corey's life that he did share, that he did ask, just for the sake of privacy, I would prefer you not share this with anybody, including Austin. I would tell you, hey, this is something that is going on in his private life right now that he shared. It will be shared with you over time. But at this point in time, he needs time and space to navigate through. So he was asking my perspective just to be able to have someone to talk to. It's not time for him to share it yet, but you will be included when it's time. So there was always clarity, because if I were listening to this and I'd be like, oh, well, does that mean that every time my friend tells me something, I have to tell my partner? That's not what you were saying at all. It was that you weren't excluded, even if there was something that Corey would say to me that was very personal. I would say, hey, look, there are some personal things. You will be included when the time is right, but it's just not now.
Yeah. And you always did what I feel and maybe what I meant by it was more, you still respected me through the process. And that's what I was attempting to express, that if there was something, whether it was Corey or any other friend, it was never to hide secrets from me. And at some point I even feel and trust that you would say like, hey, look, if this is to hide from Austin in any way, shape or form, let's just not even go there. And that's kind of what was attempting to express. But no, I like you and Corey or you and any other friend should be able to have conversations that have a level of maybe confidentiality. And I understand that. And that's to some degree, that's a beautiful thing. I feel, you are so great at giving advice. You're so great at listening. And that's one of my, like, as not only your partner, but as your best friend. And like, I love that about you. So why would I want to hold one of my favorite qualities about you away from someone else? That's just, again, that goes back to scarcity and fear. And that doesn't allow you to be or embody the quality and capacity of love that you do.
I feel the same way about you. And that really goes to like our third, which is keeping that connection that we have balanced, right? So we constantly come back to that, knowing that our bond is the strong bond. And if at any point it starts to tip into we're utilizing a friendship bond in a way that the emotions that should be being shared between us are somehow not being shared between us and only being shared in one of those friendships, then we need to rebalance. That is a moment where, and again, this has not happened, clarity, but should there ever be a time when I'm telling Corey things about my emotions that I'm not sharing with you at any point, then that means there's something out of balance in our connection. And that does need to be revisited. And we need to understand what's happening. But I also know my friend, and Corey would be going, Amber, why are you telling me this and not Austin? Austin needs to know it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's also knowing your friends and choosing who those friends are. Corey loves you so much as well that he would, in an instant, go, hey, that means that there's something off. And you need to go talk to Austin about this. Another one of our friends, Phil, right? Same thing. That's the mark of true friendship. And you get the benefit of me having these friends who are friends, regardless of gender, who would immediately say, hey, he needs to know about this so that you guys can grow stronger together through it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do want to bring up, there are times, sometimes like with friends of any gender, where we might go to them because maybe they're our oldest friend. We've known them the longest. They've known us. And we may want to go to them like, hey, I want to bring something up to my partner, but I don't know how. And that's maybe sharing an emotion and a feeling before sharing with your partner. And so I just, that is a subset. So that way it's not like a rigid thing. Cause I think it's important that we talk about these different things. It's easy to say, oh, well, okay, well, if we say this, then none of this is the case.
Yep.
And we're doing our best in these short, somewhat short podcasts to have these deep conversations that we could literally talk for hours and hours and hours on the nuance. And so if we do miss, like, please, give a little grace. But, in this instance, I did want to bring this part up is like, hey, sometimes it's nice to be able to go to a friend and be able to say, hey, I need help, because I feel like if I bring this up to my partner, I might do it in a way that won't actually be beneficial or helpful or loving or caring. And I need to get out of my own way, or I need support, or I need help to learn how to effectively communicate this, because I don't feel like I have the skills. And if I do it right now, it actually may cause more problems unintentionally. And so that's a great, that's why it's also important to have close friends to support us in these ways, because again, that can actually benefit the relationship in a way that we might, for example, if I didn't have that friend, I may just actually not bring it up, and I might be mad at you over something and you have no concept of it. And then I'm creating resentment towards you and you have no idea what's going on. That's not a fair situation. And so that's again why this transparency triangle is so important, to have this level of communication, open, connected, intentional, clear, purposeful. This is why this creates boundaries. It creates an understanding, and that makes it a lot easier to flow and be in that state of abundance, love, and connection instead of fear and lack.